tens of millions of Americans are also dealing with dangerous and potentially deadly heat. More than 70 million people are under some form of heat advisory or warning today, and about half of the country is experiencing temperatures in the 90s. Ahead of the official start of summer tomorrow, dozens of environmental and healthcare groups are urging FEMA to recognize extreme heat and wildfire smoke as major disasters. That designation would allow FEMA to provide additional funding to communities to help cope with the effects. I'm joined now by Jean Su. She's a senior attorney with the Center for Biological Diversity and lead author of that petition to FEMA to recognize heat as a major disaster. Thank you so much for joining us. So how would the funding for heat-related emergencies even be allocated?
Yeah, so funding for heat it has to be allocated according to states that actually ask for the disaster declarations. And what we actually saw in the COVID context is that Presidents Biden and Trump actually declared emergencies for COVID and then invited all states to apply for COVID funding. And that's exactly what we're trying to ask for with these extreme heat issues as well. As you've already said, it's 82% of the U.S. population right now is experiencing a surge of over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are just at the beginning of the summer. So I think many states will be in a position to ask for that extreme heat and have that financial help accordingly.
So, Jean, who would determine what constitutes a heat-related emergency? Because as you know, 100-degree temperatures in, say, New York City is a lot different than 100 degrees in Phoenix.
Absolutely. So FEMA currently defines extreme heat as 90 degrees under the heat index. And so what that is as a heat index is a mixture of both temperature as well as humidity. So that's one of the first thresholds to cross. But on top of that, you have to look at what communities are now and how they can cope with it. So there are communities, particularly in the Northeast right now, who are not accustomed to this heat and who have no air conditioning whatsoever. They're going to be different from another state that has had heat for a little bit longer and that have those cooling needs. So every single jurisdiction has to be evaluated in terms of what needs they have from the federal government, what needs that their state can actually supply, and what more they need from the federal government for help.
So, Jean, the wheels of government don't always turn so quickly. Has FEMA indicated whether it's receptive to your petition?
So FEMA has indicated that they are open to our legal interpretation, which is that the Stafford Act, which is the animating statute of FEMA, doesn't prevent extreme heat major disaster declarations from happening. Having said that, though, we're in a second year of record-breaking heat. And last year, there was also a huge push from Congress folks and in different states who have all asked FEMA for this type of help. So we've made this new effort again to hopefully get emergency help this season right now, and hopefully start erecting the type of cooling centers, air filtration systems, rooftop and community solar that will allow electricity to keep running during rolling blackouts due to grid infrastructure breaking down for extreme heat. These are the types of infrastructure that will actually save lives, and if built now, can give us many, many years of return.
And Jean, is your petition a sort of concession that it's time to focus more on mitigating the effects of climate change and less on actually combating climate change?
So it is both. Actually, mitigation, one of the main aspects of that is getting rooftop and community solar and storage on homes and on low-income buildings and public buildings as well. That is for two reasons. One is because it's actually resilient. As I said before, our grid is breaking down due to extreme heat right now, leading to tons of rolling blackouts and utility shutoffs. So that type of electricity keeps the lights on, the electricity on for cooling and air filtration systems. And at the same time, it's combating climate change because we're switching off of fossil fuel sources to renewable energy. So those are all part of the puzzle of our necessary energy transition. We have to get off of fossil fuels. That's still the number one point of intervention to stop the climate change from raging even more. But for the meantime, as we adapt to it, we actually need those clean energy sources as well to keep people alive.
And Gene, obviously, it's easy to talk about this now when so many people around the country are facing heat alerts. But do you worry that the urgency of this petition will dissipate when fall and winter come?
That is always a political issue and a concern. But I think, what we're trying to make the point of is you can't just allow these huge seasons of death and unprecedented death to run their course and not do anything about it. FEMA actually has a saying that every dollar for mitigation gives you $6 in return if you're going to put it into money terms. And what we're saying right now is we need to address this now. People are dying at an unprecedented rate now. So we're hoping that this type of pressure can actually lead to actual change now for infrastructure that can really last several years and save lives.
Jean Sue, the lead author of that petition, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.